around the disputed Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. China said that the exercises were a response to actions by certain countries.
A smaller country just stood up to one of the world's biggest superpowers, and the fallout was almost immediate. The Philippines flat out rejected a Chinese state-owned company that wanted to build a massive 20-mile bridge across Manila Bay. This wasn't some routine construction project. It was one of the longest sea bridges ever proposed. But here's the twist. It wasn't canceled because of money, engineering, or delays. It was about national security. The moment that decision became public, Beijing fired back, accusing the Philippines of violating China's sovereignty after tensions flared at sea involving a Philippine naval vessel. So why is this such a big deal? To understand, you have to go back a few years. During President Rodrigo Duterte's administration, the Philippines was one of China's closest partners in Southeast Asia. Duterte embraced Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, betting big on Chinese-backed infrastructure through his ambitious Build, Build, Build program. Railways, highways, bridges. Nearly $5 billion in major rail projects were announced. Agreements were signed. Blueprints were finished. Everything seemed ready to move forward. Then, nothing happened. The promised loans never arrived. China's state bank didn't approve the financing. Contractor approvals stalled. Project after project was left hanging. Now, years later, the Philippines is taking a very different approach. And that single decision may be reshaping the balance of power in one of the world's most contested regions. Requirements were left unfinished. Promises slowed into delays. Months passed, then years. The Philippines kept asking questions, waiting for progress, and receiving no clear answers. Then 2022 changed everything. A new president took office, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., and the country's approach shifted. The era of patience gave way to caution. Within months, his administration canceled all 3 Chinese-funded railway projects. The message was clear. If a project refuses to move forward, it may be time to walk away. But that was only the beginning. By late 2025, a new controversy emerged, this time over a project that could transform the Philippines' future, the Bataan-Cavite Interlink Bridge. This is not just a bridge. It is a 32.15-kilometer engineering milestone stretching across Manila Bay, connecting Bataan and Cavite. A trip that once took nearly 5 hours could soon take just 45 minutes. A historic infrastructure upgrade, a potential game changer. The cost? Around $3.9 billion. The funding was in place. The Asian Development Bank and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank joined the Philippine government to make it happen. Everything appeared on track until October 2025. That was when the bidders were revealed. One name immediately grabbed attention: China Harbor Engineering Company, or CHEC. They offered the lowest bid. A cheaper deal sounds appealing, but this was far from a simple business decision. CHEC is linked to China Communications Construction Company, a state-owned giant surrounded by past international concerns. Soon after, Philippine maritime groups issued a direct warning to senior government officials. Not a casual complaint, not a minor concern, a serious warning. Awarding this contract, critics warned, could create a serious national security risk. Their message was direct. This was about more than building a bridge. They raised concerns about possible sabotage, intelligence gathering, and hidden vulnerabilities built into critical infrastructure. And they pointed to one major factor: the bridge's location. On one side is Bataan, near Mariveles, home to Philippine Navy anti-submarine facilities and a strategically important Coast Guard harbor. On the other side is Cavite, just a short distance from Sangley Point, one of the country's key naval facilities. Now imagine a company with links to a foreign government building a massive structure connecting those two areas. The concern is not just who builds it, but what access that could create. Could sensors be installed? Could data be collected? Could vulnerabilities be hidden inside the infrastructure itself? For critics, this was no longer just construction. It was about strategic influence. The concern grew even stronger because the company's parent firm, China Communications Construction Company, had previously faced U.S. sanctions over its involvement in building and militarizing artificial islands in the South China Sea, areas connected to Philippine territorial disputes. For Manila, the question became bigger than cost or convenience. Should a company linked to activities challenging Philippine sovereignty be trusted with one of the nation's most important infrastructure projects? The answer was no. And that decision sent a powerful message. The Philippines was reassessing its relationship with China, prioritizing security, and reshaping its role in a changing region. But the story was far from over. Because China's own laws require companies to cooperate with state intelligence efforts when requested. That raises a deeper question. Could a bridge, port, or railway become more than infrastructure, but a gateway for information and influence? A bridge may look like simple infrastructure, but in today's world, it can also become a potential gateway to information, influence, and strategic access. The Philippine government did not immediately reject the proposal. Instead, officials slowed the process down. The Department of Public Works said the bids were still under review, with final approval from the Asian Development Bank required before moving forward. The deadline to announce the winner was November 29, 2025. That day passed. No winner, no statement, no final decision. And sometimes silence says more than words. But this was never just about one bridge. The Bataan-Cavite Interlink project became part of a much larger pattern unfolding under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Again and again, the Philippines has moved to keep Chinese firms away from its most sensitive infrastructure projects. And each time, Beijing has responded. This is no longer just about contracts or competition. It is about strategy. The numbers reveal the scale of the shift. 3 major railway projects under China's Belt and Road Initiative, worth nearly $4.9 billion combined, have been canceled. One of them, the 71-kilometer Subic-Clark Railway, was designed to connect 2 former U.S. military strongholds. Now, instead of Chinese builders, companies from Japan, South Korea, and support from the Asian Development Bank are stepping in. That is a major change. Meanwhile, the $3.91 billion Bataan-Cavite Bridge remains another key battleground. The China Harbor Engineering Company bid was only for the first $125 million phase, but the real prize was influence, placing a state-linked Chinese company inside one of the Philippines' most strategic coastal areas. Adding to the complexity, Beijing's own infrastructure bank committed $1.14 billion to the project, while the Japan-led Asian Development Bank provided the largest share. A Chinese institution helping fund the project, while a Chinese company is blocked from building it. That is the new reality. Cooperation mixed with caution and economics colliding with national security. And all of this is happening as tensions in the South China Sea continue to rise. In June 2024, a confrontation at 2nd Thomas Shoal escalated dramatically. A Filipino serviceman was seriously injured, and videos showed Chinese Coast Guard personnel using axes and damaging Philippine vessels. But the pressure did not end there. Even after both countries reached a quiet agreement to manage resupply missions, new clashes followed. In August, Chinese vessels surrounded and struck a Philippine fisheries boat carrying out a humanitarian mission near Sabina Shoal. The very next day, more Chinese ships arrived, blocking access and increasing the tension. Then in November, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed new maritime laws aimed at strengthening the Philippines' control over its waters. China responded quickly, summoning the Philippine ambassador and rejecting the move. And that reveals the bigger picture. The battles at sea and the decisions over major infrastructure projects are not separate events. They are 2 sides of the same struggle. So why is this happening now? And why is Beijing responding so aggressively? For Manila, the situation is complicated. China remains the Philippines' largest trading partner. The economic connection runs deep, involving businesses, exports, investments, and supply chains that cannot simply be replaced overnight. But the security environment has changed. Every confrontation at sea, every damaged vessel, and every standoff creates more pressure on the Philippine government to act. Because for Manila, the question is no longer just about economic opportunity. It is about how to protect national interests while navigating one of the most important geopolitical rivalries in the world. For President Marcos, defending Philippine sovereignty is not just a foreign policy choice, it is a political necessity. Public support depends heavily on showing that the country can stand its ground. That is why Manila's strategy appears carefully calculated. The Philippines is not cutting ties with China. Trade continues. Diplomacy remains open. But when it comes to the nation's most sensitive infrastructure, the approach is changing. Bridges, railways, ports, strategic locations. The reason is simple. Trade can be adjusted, But infrastructure creates long-term influence. Once a bridge is built, technology is installed, or access is secured, reversing that decision becomes far more difficult. And there is another force accelerating this shift: the United States. While tensions with China have grown, the U.S.-Philippines alliance has moved closer than it has been in years. In April 2024, President Biden hosted President Marcos at the White House, joined by Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. It was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was a signal. 3 countries, 1 direction. From that meeting came the PGI Luzon Corridor, a U.S.-backed infrastructure initiative designed to connect Subic Bay, Clark, Manila, and Batangas through Western investment rather than Chinese funding. The message was clear, but the military relationship is also expanding. By 2026, the U.S. and Philippines are expected to conduct up to 500 joint military activities. That is not just cooperation, it is strategic alignment. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy is quietly increasing its presence around Subic Bay, a former American naval hub. And years earlier, China nearly gained influence over that same location when the Hanjin shipyard collapsed. But in 2022, a U.S. investment firm outbid Chinese interests and took control. A critical location stayed out of Beijing's hands, and that decision may now matter more than ever. Today, that same facility plays a critical role in supporting Philippine Navy operations, while also serving U.S. defense companies. Any single move might appear insignificant by itself, but when you connect the dots, a much larger picture begins to emerge. The Philippines is shifting its strategic position, and it is happening faster than many analysts predicted. Now change the angle. See the situation through Beijing's eyes. China's response to the bridge project delay came almost immediately. That reaction was more than a routine diplomatic statement. It revealed something deeper, genuine concern. Because to China, the Philippines is not simply another neighboring nation. It is a crucial piece on the geopolitical chessboard. The South China Sea is a vital region rich in resources and one of the world's busiest trade routes. Its location near Taiwan makes the Philippines strategically important to China. For Beijing, losing influence in Manila is not just a business setback, it is a geopolitical loss. As the Philippines turns to Japan, South Korea, the United States, and Europe for major projects, China's influence faces growing challenges. The impact goes beyond individual contracts. It affects the image and reach of the Belt and Road Initiative, a major tool for expanding China's global partnerships and influence. It challenges the reputation and credibility of the entire initiative. And Beijing takes that seriously, because China also has options. When its interests are threatened, it has a history of using economic pressure, diplomatic leverage, and strategic influence to push back. Trade restrictions, tourism limits, regulatory pressure. China has many ways to respond, and its rapid diplomatic reactions, from calling in ambassadors to releasing statements within hours, show just how seriously Beijing views this shift. But here is the part that matters most. The Philippines is moving ahead anyway. That decision reveals a major change in Manila's thinking. The government now appears to believe that allowing Chinese involvement in sensitive infrastructure carries greater risk than the diplomatic fallout of saying no, especially when those projects involve military areas in strategic sea routes. But the story is far from over. China is unlikely to simply watch its influence decline. Pressure in the South China Sea could intensify. Economic tensions could grow. And inside the Philippines, voices supporting closer relations with Beijing remain powerful, especially among groups connected to the previous administration. They will point to every delay, every failed project, and every setback as proof that Manila made the wrong choice. Now the Philippines faces a major test. Can its new partners actually deliver? The PGI Luzon Corridor and other projects backed by the United States, Japan, and South Korea bring promise. But promises alone do not build roads, ports, or infrastructure. Reality takes time, and if those projects move slowly or fail to materialize, critics will argue that turning away from Chinese investment was a mistake. Beijing understands that waiting can be a powerful strategy, because in this larger geopolitical battle, every infrastructure deal is more than a contract. It is a signal. And the Philippines is sending a message to the world about where it stands. Every deal the Philippines rejects sends a message. And this one may have been the loudest yet. Blocking China Harbor Engineering Company from the Bataan-Cavite Bridge was never just about a single contract. It raised a much bigger question. Should a company connected to activities in disputed waters be allowed to operate near critical naval facilities? For Manila, this was not just business. It was about sovereignty, security, and control over its own future. That is why the canceled railway projects, the blocked bridge, the updated maritime laws, and the stronger partnership with the United States are not isolated decisions. They are pieces of the same strategy. Together, they reveal a clear shift in direction. The Philippines has chosen its position, and Beijing's rapid public response shows it understands exactly what is happening. But the next chapter depends on three major questions. Can Manila's new allies deliver real results? Will tensions in the South China Sea remain under control? And can the Philippines maintain political support at home? Nothing is guaranteed. But one thing is clear. For the Philippines, infrastructure is no longer just about development. It has become a matter of national security. And in one of the world's most contested regions, that decision comes with a cost. The question now is whether that cost is worth paying. Because from the looks of it, the Philippines has already answered, and it is not backing down.